All right, so we're now going to start learning about dominance. So another application of communication matrices is to determine dominance. This is usually applied to tournaments or competitions where players or teams play everyone else once. So a round robin competition. The dominance matrix allows us to rank players or teams based on their win-loss results. In a dominance matrix, ones represents a win and zeros represent a loss. We use the row totals to determine the total wins or dominance of the team or player. So let's go through this example here. So here we have 4 teams, each play each other once in a round robin competition, and the results are the following. Create a dominance matrix to display this information. So we want to create a dominance matrix here, which we're calling D. So here we have it. And remember, we're going to have A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. Okay, so A, you can't play against yourself, right? So you know that all of the diagonals here are going to be 0. So that makes sense because A can't play it against itself. But A defeated B and D. So A defeated B, so we put a 1 there, and A defeated D, so we put a 1 there. That means it didn't defeat C. So that's what our first row is going to look like. The first thing that we should notice now, as we're filling out who B defeated, would you agree that a 0 has to go here? Because if A defeated B, that means B lost to A. So across your diagonals here, they should be the opposite, shouldn't it? If this is a 1, this has to be 0. We're told that Team B defeated Team D. So I'll put a 1 there and a 0 there. All right, we now continue. What about Team C? Team C defeated A and B. So Team C defeated Team A and Team B, and we put a 0 there. And then Team D just defeated Team C. So that means zeros there. So again, I want you to really take note of the fact, and this is a very ugly matrix. Can I just try to make this a bit prettier? 0, 0, 0. Okay, that's a little better. But as you can see here, this going down that way, our diagonals are all 0, and then across your diagonals. So here, this is 0 and this is 1. If you take another one, for example, C beat B. So we've got a 1 here. But then if C beat B, that means C lost to B. So we've got a 0 there. So across your diagonals, they must be the opposite. So again, if D beat C, that means D lost to C. So 1, 0, they're opposites there. Cool. All right, let's keep on going now. It says, determine the one-step dominance. So to do that, what you want to do is you want to calculate row totals. So let's do that up here. So A beat B and D, so it won 2 games. B only won 1 game. C beat A and B, so it won 2 games. And D only won 1 game. So that means A won 2, B won 1, and C won 2, and D won 1. Well, as you can see, if I can grab this pen, A won 2 and C won 2. So there isn't a clear dominant team here, is there? So we can write here, there is not a clear winner. A clear winner. All right, next. Calculate the 2-step dominance, the D squared, and the total dominance. Okay, this is interesting now. We're now going to figure out D squared. To figure out D squared, what we're going to do is we're going to take D, which I've already typed into our calculator here, and we're just going to square it. And there it is right there. So this is going to be our D squared. So this is our 2-step dominance. We'll write it out, and then I'll explain what this is saying to us. So it's 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 1, 1, 0, 0. Cool. And remember, this is A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. What is this telling me now? What this is telling me isn't which team directly beat another team, but rather it's kind of like a 2-step process. So if we just come here for a second, it's kind of easier with an example here. So let's just look here. Okay, as you can see, Team A defeated Team D, didn't it? Team A defeated Team D. And then Team D defeated Team C. So if I was to write this out here, A beat D, and then D beat C. Now, the reason why that's interesting is because if we come and we look at our one-step wins here, as you can see, A didn't beat C. In fact, C defeated A, so A didn't beat C. But it's interesting that A defeated D, and then D defeated C. So what is that telling me? That's telling me that D is a more dominant team than C, but that means A is more dominant to D, which must mean it's more dominant to C. So as you can see, this is a two-step process. Indirectly, A is a better team than C because it beat D and D beat C. And now if we come down here, that's what this is telling me. It's telling me that A is, through this two-step process, better than C. And that's what it's telling me. So all of these here are telling me kind of a two-step dominance thing. It's telling me that, A beats D and then D beats C. So A is dominant to C. If we were to pick another one here, what about this one? This is saying that C is dominant to D by two different ways. So remember, this isn't through one direct way. It's saying through two separate ways, C is dominant to D. All right, so let's just come here for a second. As you can see, and I'll do this in a different color, C beat A and C beat B. So let's just take one of these. Let's just say C beat A. Okay, now A beat D. A beat D. Also, C beat B. And B beat D. B beat D. Well, as you can see, A must be a more dominant team than D. And because C beat A, that means it's more dominant to A, which must mean it's more dominant to D. And the same thing could be said here. So C is better than D through these two indirect pathways. It's beating teams that are stronger than it. And that's why you've got a 2 here. You've got that 2 here, which kind of denotes the fact that C indirectly beat D twice. Okay, what we now want to do is we want to find out what our total dominance is. So that's when you take a D, so your direct wins, and you plus it with your indirect wins, D squared. So if we come to our CAS now, what we're going to do is we're going to take just D here, and we're going to add it on to D squared. And that's going to give us 0, 1, 1, 2. 0, 0, 1, 1. 1, 2, 0, 2. And 1, 1, 1, 0. Perfect. This is joining together my one step and two steps. So this is giving me the overall dominance. A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. So if we think for a second, if we add up the rows here, we're going to say, well, A is dominant 4 ways here. 1 plus 1 plus 2. This would be 2. This will be 5. And this will be 3. So as you can see here, C is the most dominant team because through direct and indirect wins, we've got a total of 5 here. So the last thing we have to do here is use T to determine the finishing order of the 4 teams. So that means we've got A, B, C, and D. This is 4. This is 2. This is 5. This is 3. So that means in our first, second, third, and fourth place, what we're going to end up with is C, then A, then D, then B. C, A, D, B. That's our finishing order, which we've gotten from adding the totals here. And that's how our dominance matrix works. Hopefully that's all made sense here, and I will see you in the next one.